Loneliness is a quiet visitor. It comes without knocking, sits beside us, and reminds us of the space between ourselves and the world. Many fear it, trying to drown it with noise, distraction, or the company of anyone who will stay. But the Stoics saw loneliness not as an enemy, but as a teacher. When we are alone, we meet ourselves without disguise, and in that encounter, something honest begins. To face loneliness the Stoic way is not to escape it, but to welcome it as a moment of truth. In solitude, we are no longer performing for others, we simply are. And sometimes, that is enough. Seneca once wrote that a wise person is never truly alone, for they are always in good company, the company of their own thoughts. The Stoics believed that our mind, trained in virtue, becomes a companion stronger than any external presence. To cultivate this inner friendship, one must learn to enjoy the silence, to read, to reflect, and to speak kindly to oneself. Loneliness transforms into solitude when the mind is peaceful, and solitude, when embraced, becomes a sanctuary, not a prison. We often feel lonely because we depend too much on others to fill our emptiness. But the Stoic knows that dependence breeds suffering. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, be content with what you have. Seek nothing more. The true cure for loneliness is not more people, but deeper peace within. When you stop demanding others to complete you, you begin to discover that you were never incomplete. The company you truly need is already within you, waiting quietly to be heard. The modern world has taught us to fear silence. Every pause feels uncomfortable. Every moment alone seems wasted. Yet the Stoics saw silence as a sacred space where wisdom breathes. Epictetus said that we must control our opinions, for it is not events but our judgments that disturb us. Loneliness, then, is not about being without others, it is about how we think about being without others. If we see it as loss, we suffer. If we see it as freedom, we grow. The silence that once frightened us can become our greatest ally. There is a kind of loneliness that appears even in crowds. Surrounded by people, we can still feel unseen, unheard, misunderstood. The Stoics would say, it is not the crowd that comforts or isolates us, but our mind's interpretation of it. You can be in solitude and still feel connected to the whole of humanity. The soul that knows itself finds unity everywhere, even in separation. In stillness, you realize that being alone does not mean being abandoned. The Stoic path asks us to separate what is in our control from what is not. The presence or absence of others is often beyond our power, but our response to loneliness that belongs entirely to us. We cannot force others to stay, nor can we prevent loss, but we can choose to remain steady, grateful, and inwardly free. When the heart no longer resists what is, it becomes calm, and in that calm, loneliness loses its sting. Loneliness can teach humility. It reminds us that we are not the center of anyone's universe but our own. It asks us to let go of the illusion that we must always be needed. To walk through life with quiet dignity means to accept that sometimes we must walk alone. The Stoic finds strength in that acceptance. For solitude is not punishment, it is preparation for understanding, for peace, and for the deep joy that comes from being whole within oneself. There is wisdom in learning to sit with your own thoughts. Many run from loneliness because they fear what their minds might say when no one else is speaking. Yet, that inner dialogue is where transformation begins. When you stop running, you begin to listen, and in that listening, you may hear a deeper voice, a voice that whispers not of emptiness, but of truth. The Stoics called it reason, the divine spark within every human being. To hear it clearly, one must first be still. Stoicism teaches that nature has given us all we need to live well. Loneliness, then, is not a flaw in the design, it is a signal to turn inward. Just as night allows the stars to appear, solitude allows the light of self-awareness to shine. You begin to see that you are not isolated, but part of something vast and harmonious. The same breath that moves through all life moves through you. In that understanding, loneliness fades into connection. We suffer most when we resist what already is. The Stoics urged us to love our fatam fati. This includes the moments when fate leaves us alone. To love your fate is to say yes to the whole of life, not just its pleasant parts. Loneliness is not a mistake in your story. It is a necessary chapter. By embracing it, you no longer ask why me, but what can I learn? And every lesson learned this way deepens the soul's peace. The Stoic way is not cold detachment. It is deep clarity. It does not tell us to stop feeling, but to understand our feelings. Loneliness, seen clearly, is not an absence, it is a mirror. It reflects the places within us still longing for attention. By caring for those parts, by showing ourselves the compassion we often seek from others, we heal. And through that healing, we grow kinder, quieter, and freer. Sometimes, solitude reveals our smallness, and that can be frightening. Yet the Stoics remind us that recognizing our smallness is the first step toward peace. When we see how brief and fragile life is, we stop demanding so much from it. We begin to appreciate the simple act of being. In this humility, loneliness softens. The space that once felt empty becomes vast and sacred, filled with quiet gratitude. The Stoic finds companionship in the rhythm of nature. The sunrise, the wind, the stars all are reminders that we belong to something larger. When you walk alone and feel the earth beneath your feet, you are never truly alone. The same order that guides the cosmos also guides you. By aligning with that order, your loneliness transforms into harmony. The world itself becomes your companion. Loneliness can be a test of your principles. It reveals whether your peace depends on circumstances or on wisdom. The Stoic practices serenity not when things are easy, but when they are not. If you can remain calm in solitude, you are free. No loss can destroy you. No absence can define you. For your peace no longer comes from the outside, it springs from the strength of your inner life. There is a subtle joy in realizing that you can survive your own company. It brings a quiet confidence, a self-trust that no one can give or take away. The Stoics saw this as true independence. They believed that the highest form of freedom is self-mastery. To face loneliness and remain whole is to discover that freedom firsthand. You are enough, even when you stand alone. The fear of loneliness often hides the fear of meaninglessness. But Stoicism teaches that meaning is not found through others, it is created through how we live. Every act of kindness, every moment of integrity, every breath of gratitude gives shape to meaning. When you live with virtue, even in solitude, your life radiates purpose. And that purpose makes loneliness lose its shadow. Loneliness can remind us of love, its presence, and its impermanence. The Stoic does not deny love but accepts its changing forms. When someone departs, the wise heart remembers without clinging. To love without attachment is not coldness. It is maturity. You learn to love the memory, to cherish the gift, and to release the grasp. In doing so, love expands, even in solitude. In the end, every human must learn to walk alone, if only for a while. Birth and death are solitary passages, and life in between prepares us for both. The Stoic understands this truth not with fear, but with peace. To face loneliness calmly is to live in harmony with nature's design. You do not need to escape solitude, you need to make peace with it. For in making peace with solitude, you make peace with life itself. Loneliness, when accepted, becomes a forge where the soul is tempered. The Stoics understood that suffering itself can shape us, that hardship reveals what comfort hides. When we sit with loneliness instead of resisting it, we discover an inner sturdiness, a calm strength that does not depend on anyone's presence. The heart grows still and the mind grows clear. You begin to realize that peace was never something to be found outside. It was waiting quietly within. And once you have found that peace, even solitude feels like home. There are moments when loneliness feels endless, like a long winter that will never thaw. But even winter serves its purpose, it lets the roots grow deeper, unseen. The Stoic sees this time as necessary, not cruel. Every soul must go through seasons of quiet to renew its strength. If you rush through them, you miss their wisdom. Let your loneliness be like that winter soil, rich with unseen growth. Spring will come, but first you must learn to rest in the stillness. In facing loneliness, gratitude becomes a lantern in the dark. The Stoic heart learns to give thanks not only for what is present, but for what has been, and even for what is no longer. Gratitude turns loss into memory, and memory into quiet appreciation. When you count the blessings of your solitude, the freedom, the time, the space to reflect, you begin to see that even loneliness offers gifts. It asks nothing but your presence, and in return, it teaches you how to truly be alive. And so, The Stoic way of facing loneliness is not about escaping it, but about transforming it into wisdom. To sit quietly with your thoughts, meet yourself, and when you can sit in silence and feel at home. When the absence of others no longer feels like loss, you have touched something eternal. That stillness within is not loneliness, it is presence. The Stoics called it the soul's tranquility, the quiet strength that remains when all else fades. To live in that state is to live free. For the one who has made peace with loneliness has already made peace with the world.